Another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Bruce, and for the next hour I'll be reading from current issues of the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. From Tuesday, April 7th. Top story, DCSD mourns principal's death. Article by M.J. Stafford. The Dunkirk City School District is mourning School 5 Principal Danielle Russell, who passed away Saturday. Superintendent Brian Swatland announced the news in a Saturday letter to the school district. Swatland had told the district in a separate letter March 23rd that Russell would be taking a leave of absence to focus on her health. Mrs. Russell had been with our district since 2021, first serving as School 7 principal and director of special education before becoming the principal at School 5. Swatland wrote Saturday, "She was a devoted and caring administrator who loved our district and the family and students she worked with at School 5. She influenced many lives through her dedication to creating and nurturing the School 5 family." Swatland said Carol Smith will continue as interim principal at School 5. Russell's family has requested privacy at this time and has asked for continued prayers for strength to get through this devastating loss. According to Swatland, the family has created a GoFundMe to establish an education-based scholarship in honor of Mrs. Russell. Swatland said the district will have our social worker and additional supports available upon return to school after the break for any students or employees upset by Russell's passing. His letter also linked to 2 websites offering advice for helping children deal with grief. The entire One Dunkirk community will deeply miss her, Swatland concluded. Brockton, Portland, fill code officer vacancy. Article by Braden Carmen. The town of Portland moved swiftly to find a replacement for Wendy Spinoza following her retirement as code enforcement officer. After navigating the civil service employee process, the Portland Town Board has found its newest employee in charge of addressing violations in the town. At the latest town board meeting, Joshua Dobbs was hired as a town-wide provisional inspector officer to serve both the town of Portland and village of Brockton. Brockton attorney Peter Clark plans to meet with Dobbs in the coming days to discuss ongoing matters in the village. Among the most significant on the list is the cleanup of scorched debris at the site of 98 Old Mill Road, a home that was destroyed in a fatal fire on Christmas morning 2024. Clark recently got a verbal commitment from the owner of the property, stating the deed to the land will be turned over to the village. In turn, the village will work to have the property cleaned up and rehabilitated for an eventual sale, which the village hopes will reimburse the cost of the cleanup. Also of note, the town of Portland approved an increase of 30% to the total budget of the Village of Brockton Dog Control Officer budget line. The new amount, beginning November 1st, 2026 through October 31st of 2027, amounts to $4,657.50. Portland also set its permit fees for principal use in large-scale wind energy facilities. Application fees and building permits each cost $5,000, while special use permits cost $500 per megawatt of maximum capacity, and permits from electrical and fencing work cost $100. The town of Portland approved the Ahira Hall Memorial Library Board. The library is located in the village of Brockton. Kathleen Thies is the new president. Stephanie Buck is the new vice president. Jay Hardenberg returns as financial officer. Patricia Thompson returns as secretary. Melinda Marsh fills Beth Jagoda's term as trustee, and both Charles Croth and Nancy Hazelton return as trustees. Library Director Julie Morrison Putcher told the Brockton Village Board that the library is pursuing a partnership with Feed More Western New York for a food truck carrying affordable local produce for purchase. Brockton is defined as a target area for Feed More Western New York with SNAP benefits accepted. The event would be held from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. Friday afternoons, beginning after Memorial Day, likely to be located at or near Rickman Park. "It sounds awesome. Thank you for looking out for the community," Mayor Craig Miller said to Putcher. The library is also planning a foam and bubble party at Rickman Park on Friday, August 14th. More information will be made available at a later date. The village board also unanimously passed a resolution in support of increased aid to municipalities in the spirit of strengthening New York's state-to-local partnership. The resolution stated, "New York's strength begins in its cities, villages, and towns." The resolution applauds Governor Kathy Hochul for reaffirming her commitment to invest in local governments by allocating an additional $100 million in temporary municipal assistance, just as she has for the past 2 years, in the statewide executive budget. The additional funding is to be used to address fiscal challenges to maintain essential services for residents. The next Portland Town Board meeting is Wednesday, April 8th at 6 p.m., while the next Brockton Village Board meeting is Wednesday, April 15th at 6 p.m. Council head barks on dog shelter mess. Article by M.J. Stafford. Dunkirk Councilman-at-Large Nick Weiser sought to clarify the Common Council's role in the city dog shelter. Howling and yapping in Dunkirk about alleged City Hall mismanagement of the shelter reached a crescendo recently after dog control officer Jennifer Sasso refused to renew her contract. Sasso is strongly criticizing the city government. Council's responsibility is limited to establishing the budget, Weiser said. For 2026, Council allocated $39,500 to dog control, shelter, and relative services, an 8.97% increase over the 2025 budget. He continued, operational decisions, including animal care, shelter procedures, and any policies related to intake or disposition, fall under the Mayor Kate Wizowitz's administration and are not directed by Council. Sasso alleged that the city has made dog shelter donations inaccessible. Weiser said, with respect to donations, I have been informed by the city clerk's office that the city has not received any monetary donations designated for the dog shelter. 2 physical items were left in the City Hall drop box and remain there. As a matter of standard practice, any donations made to the city or its departments are required to be processed through the clerk's office. To ensure proper tracking, transparency, and accountability, if there are additional concerns or information regarding donations, I would welcome the opportunity to review them. Weiser added, I understand that this is an issue people care deeply about, and I share that concern. At the council level, we remain committed to ensuring that appropriate resources are budgeted and that any questions about operations are addressed through the proper administrative channels. No charges expected in officer-involved shooting in Mina. Article by Gregory Bacon. The 2 officers who responded to a domestic dispute in Mina last summer, where they ended up returning fire and killing the suspect after one of them was shot, will likely not face any charges. State Attorney General Letitia James's Office of Special Investigation, OSI, issued a notification of investigative findings regarding the investigation into the death of Mark Bemis, who died in June following an encounter with members of the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office. Upon completion of the investigation into Mr. Bemis's death, OSI has concluded that a prosecutor would not be able to disprove beyond a reasonable doubt at trial that the officer's use of deadly physical force was justified under the law. The statement read, "A final investigation report is expected at a later date." On June 18, 2025, 2 deputies went to Bemis's house in response to a 911 call reporting a domestic dispute. The first deputy arrived at 3:54 p.m. and encountered Bemis, who was in the garage holding a shotgun. The deputy took out his service weapon and instructed Bemis to drop his weapon. Bemis fired a shot into the air, and the deputy took cover behind a tree. For the next several minutes, the deputy, while behind the tree, repeatedly instructed Bemis to put the gun down. A second deputy arrived and took cover behind another tree. At one point, Bemis pointed his gun in the direction of the first deputy and refused commands from the deputy to lower it. The deputy and Bemis exchanged several rounds of gunfire, and the deputy was struck in his left hand. Both deputies then fired again, striking Bemis. Bemis was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators recovered a shotgun at the scene. According to the statement by James's office, pursuant to New York State Executive Law, Section 70B, OSI assesses every incident reported to it where a police officer or peace officer, including a corrections officer, may have caused the death of a person by an act or omission. Under the law, the officer may be on duty or off duty, and the descendant may be armed or unarmed. If ISI's assessment indicates an officer may have caused the death, OSI proceeds to conduct a full investigation of the incident. In cases where the evidence and legal analysis are clear and the investigation is complete, OSI may issue a notification of investigative findings announcing the conclusion of the investigation. In such cases, OSI will issue a final inspections report as required by law at a later date. The incident was captured on the deputy's body-worn camera. In July, James's office released the 2 videos. Sheriff Jim Quattrone was unavailable for comment Monday. Myers seeks lower revenue projection. Article by M.J. Stafford. Fredonia Fire Chief Joshua Myers thinks the village focuses too much on his ambulance revenue. Myers opened his 26-27 budget presentation to village officials last week with a request: stop expecting so much money. He asked that the line's name be changed to estimated because ambulance revenue. It should be changed to estimated ambulance revenue. The fire chief opined, "I think a lot of unneeded attention gets brought on ambulance charges, and where do we stand and how we're looking this year. That's not the intent of this. This is cost recovery. We can't make people pay their bills. As time gets harder and everyone's bills go up, an ambulance's bill just yet another bill. So I worry that if we put so much attention into using that as a concrete number, that it would be problematic." Myers then stated he wants his ambulance revenue line lowered to $450,000 from his original proposal of $550,000. In the line when he presented his proposed 26-27 village budget to trustees. "Do I think we will overshoot $450,000? I absolutely do," Myers said, "but I don't want to use this word. I'm very, very comfortable with the number $450,000 because I know we will exceed that." With an adjustment to $450,000, Myers sees 1.026 in hard revenue coming from the fire department in 26-27. Trustee John Esperson asked him why he changed his ambulance revenue number. because of how much attention is on it, Myers replied. I don't like it. Simply as that. Too much attention gets brought on every single month in these reports to the board on this is where we're at for our revenue. I don't know the purpose behind that. I think this ambulance cost recovery is an added benefit to us because, let's face it, if no one pays their bills tomorrow, are we going to still provide the service? Probably. Myers continued that the fire department should hit $550,000 in ambulance revenue for the current 26 to 26 fiscal year. It's going to be very close. I think we'll be just above it, he said. But the more I thought about it, we're going into troubling times, not only for us, but for everyone, so we should leave a buffer there. Ferguson said he understands where the chief is coming from and doesn't disagree. Trustee Ben Brochler stated that if $100,000 of revenue is slashed from village projections, that's baking in a 2% tax increase. Ferguson's proposal would already raise property taxes 2%, so such a cut would increase the tax hike to 4%. I understand that I'm sensitive to that, Myers replied, but a revenue item in my budget is affecting the whole village. That puts a lot of pressure on me. It puts us in a vulnerable position to budget on. Oh, we think we're going to get this. Village Treasurer Erlessa Lebu said that any future revenue source is estimated based on current members. Ferguson made a side comment. The pressure isn't so much on the general public. The pressure's on the ridiculousness of social media. The people who don't watch these things, who don't take the time to look at the work that goes into a budget. Nobody's fluffing their budget. Nobody's padding their budget. Nobody's trying to make a budget look good. You're trying to do the best you can with what you have. Myers went on to note that his fire department has leaks in its roof, and he plans a $60,000 repair over the equipment base. Ferguson said his plan to add a new police department as an addition to the fire hall would allow us to replace the roof in the same grant. Myers later asked for higher stipends for his assistant chiefs and a $3,000 increase in his equipment safety line. We haven't bought new masks because we've had cuts. I must tell you. I'll make it work, Myers said. If you tell me you're at $13,000 and nothing we can do about it, I'll make it work, Myers said. But the reason there's a recommendation to put a little more in there, if there's things I go without again, it's going to reach a point where I come to the board and say, we have to buy 10 masks instead of 3. Ferguson replied that he and Lebu go through the budget every year, but even though you've had a decrease in your requests, you haven't spent what you've been given. Myers retorted, I haven't spent it because when I come to the board and say I need to buy a thermal imaging camera that's in my budget, the request is denied. He said the Fredonia Fire Department's projected operating cost for 25-26 is $720,266, with $1,871,000 in expenses against $1,151,000 in revenues. That's pretty impressive. I'm proud of that. We provide a level of service that I think, because I'm the chief of the service, is the best in the country. Myers later said that some things can wait, but my big foot stomp is with that equipment safety line. It seems trivial that I'm up here complaining about a $3,000 cut but I want to fairly paint the picture that we're not eliminating the need, we're shifting it. Trustees made no public changes to Meyer's budget at the meeting. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From Monday, April 6th. Top story, enrollment drop part of budget talks. Article by Braden Carmen. As the Silver Creek Central School District prepares its 26-27 school budget, Superintendent Dr. Katie Ralston and School Business Manager Matt Miller are taking a close look at the cost per student and total enrollment at the district. Ralston and Miller presented a series of graphics to the Board of Education at its recent meeting to depict the district's enrollment and cost per student, as well as the funding sources the district has to draw from. The amount of state aid the district receives is tied to enrollment, and in 2024, state aid funded more than 63% of the district's total budget. Ralston stated that there has been a steady decline in enrollment at Silver Creek over the past decade. In 2016, the district had an enrollment of 1,084 students. 5 years later, that figure dropped to 1,010 in 2021, following a decrease of over 5% from the previous year. In each year since 2021, it has continued to drop by more than 1%, including significant drops in each of the past 2 years. There were 941 students enrolled district-wide in 2024 and only 913 students in 2025. While enrollment itself is dropping, Ralston noted the needs of students are increasing. The percentage of economically disadvantaged students in the district has increased over the past 5 years. That does not take into account the social and emotional needs of students that have also increased since the pandemic as well. There is a lot of work being done in the world of advocacy at the state level, with the understanding that it can't just be based on numbers only. There has to be attention given to the need for students when they're looking at funding, Ralston said. The district compared its data with neighboring school districts to evaluate its cost per student. In 2024, when the district had 941 students enrolled, the district spent $26,111 per student. That compares favorably to other nearby districts, as the 2024 Cassadaga Valley spent $26,375 per student. Forestville spent $27,590 per student, and Pine Valley spent $28,018 per student. Larger nearby districts spent slightly less per student in 2024, as Lake Shore spent $24,638 per student, and Eden spent $23,632 per student. Our expenditures per student is falling right in line with the average. That's non-negotiable for us. We aren't willing to go below the line of what it is that our students need, Ralston said. As we look at funding and we look at expenses, this is always our first priority. What do our students need, and how are our students impacted? The district will present its budget in April, with the annual budget hearing for the public scheduled for May 7th at 6 p.m. in the Silver Creek High School lobby. The annual budget vote will be May 19th from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the high school library. County helping fight HABs in Findlay Lake. Article by Gregory Bacon. Chautauqua County is helping address harmful algae blooms in Findlay Lake. During the county legislature meeting, lawmakers approved a resolution to spend $27,500 $500 to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Mina for engineering services for the preliminary design of an oxygen saturation technology system in Findlay Lake. The resolution was not discussed at the full legislature meeting, but Ed Mulkern, who is the president of the Findlay Lake Watershed Foundation, discussed it in committee. Mulkern noted that the lake has poor water quality in the summer. Part of that is due to the lack of public sewers, which are in the process of being installed. The other issue Mulkern noted is they have locked in phosphorus that's bound to iron on the bottom of Findlay Lake, and it gets released in the summer. The way you combat that is by oxygenating the water, he said. They're working with the State Department of Environmental Conservation to have a demonstration project this summer. If this does what we think it's going to do, it's going to be a game changer, Mulkern said. In other business, the legislature approved the acquisition of navigation easements for property located near both county airports. Navigation easements are mandated by the Federal Aviation Administration, as it requires airports to either own certain airspace or have easements pertaining to airspace. Legislator Bob Scudder, Republican from Fredonia, voted no. He generally votes against any airport resolutions that are partly or fully funded by the FAA. Scudder also voted against authorizing a public hearing for a supplemental agreement with the FAA to construct, operate, and maintain a navigational aids at the Jamestown Airport, as well as 4 airport resolutions that were previously approved but needed to be adjusted and had to be voted on a second time. The legislature approved 4 occupancy tax-funded projects for a total of $125,920. The amounts and projects are as follows: $40,000 for the Lakewood Fairmount Avenue Stormwater Basin and Watershed Improvement Project, $30,000 for the Chadwick Bay Marina Project, $33,920 for the Cattaraugus Creek Stabilization Project, and $20,000 for the Bear Lake Dredging Permitting. DeJoy, a Democrat from Jamestown, abstained because he works for the city of Dunkirk, which is behind the Chadwick Bay Marina Dredging Permitting Project. Neil Gruber of South Dayton was appointed to the County Ethics Board. Brittany Beckstrom of Jamestown was appointed to the Airport Commission. The county agreed to pay the Lakewood Fire Department $3,000 a year to have its fly car, M73, operate out of their fire hall. Superintendent details impact of Gowanda storm. Article by Braden Carmen. After a violent hailstorm impacted the village of Gowanda this past week, the Gowanda Central School District canceled classes for the final 2 days prior to spring break. The storm hit Gowanda on Tuesday with large pieces of hail striking the grounds, structures, and vehicles throughout the village. Students were still in school at the time, which resulted in the district issuing a shelter-in-place order for all the district buildings. All students and staff were ordered to remain indoors, away from windows and doors until it was deemed safe to dismiss. After school activities were canceled. Superintendent Dr. Robert Anderson was pleased with the district's response in the moment. He thanked staff and students for how they conducted themselves throughout what the district called an extreme weather event. People stepped up. They filled roles without being asked or coerced. They just naturally took care of kids, took care of the property to do what they had to do to make sure we were all safe and cared for, Anderson said. We are really, really happy with the response. The district canceled classes on Wednesday and Thursday in order to allow for the district's facilities to be inspected and addressed. Many lights and windows were shattered throughout the district, while many vehicles were dented from the impact of the hail. The fields and outdoor facilities were heavily impacted as well. However, despite all the damage, the district remains structurally intact, and the opening of school following spring break will luckily not be impacted. It wasn't catastrophic in the sense that roofs or walls came down, but it was very significant, Anderson said, of the damage. The district now has the next week to further assess the damage to its facilities prior to the students returning from the spring break on April 13th. Anderson noted that the timing of spring break gave the district the ability to really take our time to be patient and make sure we recorded, to make sure we can prepare appropriately for classes to resume. The district has been in contact with architects from Young and Wright and Buffalo Construction Consultants for an in-depth analysis of the damage. Insurance claims will be filed, and an emergency repair project could be pursued depending on the amount of damage uncovered through the in-depth analysis. Gowanda Board of Education member Mark Nephew, who also serves as mayor of Gowanda, commended the district for its handling of the storm. I really want to thank the administration and the staff of the district, Nephew said. I think everybody stepped up and did a good job for the safety of the kids. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From Saturday, Sunday, April 4th and 5th of 2026, top story, Trial for Hector Rosas expected this year. Article by Gregory Bacon. It's been nearly 3 years since a former Dunkirk City Festivals director was arrested on allegations of public corruption, including stealing thousands of dollars. District Attorney Jason Schmidt said he expects the case will go to trial this year. Starting in 2016, Rosas ran the city's summer festival programs through the Dunkirk Local Development Corporation, while his brother was mayor. As festivals coordinator from the summer of 2016 to the summer of 2019, Rosas was responsible for collecting and depositing cash generated from beer sales at the annual summer festivals. The investigation allegedly revealed that over $42,000 in cash sales were collected by Rosas but never reported or deposited in the festival's account. Separately, Rosas oversaw funding efforts to aid the people of Puerto Rico in recovering from the devastation wrought by Hurricane Maria. Rosas collected nearly $15,000 in donations from citizens, schools, and civic groups. The investigation allegedly revealed that all of these funds were transferred by Rosas from the city's festival bank account, which he controlled, to his personal bank account. Although Rosas visited his mother's home in Puerto Rico and spent some of the funds, he could produce no receipts, nor could he account for the money collected. In May of 2023, State Comptroller Thomas B. Napoli and Schmidt announced the indictment against Rosas, charging him with Rosas was charged in May of 23 with 2 counts of third-degree grand larceny and 2 counts of public corruption. Part of the reason for the delay is because there has been talk about seeing if Rosas would pay back the missing money as part of a plea agreement. At this point, Schmidt does not expect a settlement before trial. Right now, the district attorney's office is waiting for Judge Stephen Case to schedule a hearing regarding some statements made by Rosas to see if they are admissible for trial by the prosecution. one that is done and case rules on some other legal issues. The case would be placed on the trial calendar. In my head, I'm thinking, realistically, third or fourth quarter for a trial date, Schmidt said. Jamestown native works on Artemis II. Article by Sarah Holthouse. Wednesday evening saw the official launch of NASA's Artemis II, which is set to take 4 astronauts on a mission to circumvent the moon. The first time astronauts have been in the vicinity of the moon in more than 50 years. This mission has a local connection, with Jamestown native Lori Abady, a 1997 graduate of Southwestern School, playing a role in bringing the mission to life. Also receiving a special invitation to view Wednesday's launch. My interest in space has always come from a sense of curiosity, wanting to understand how we explore, how we push boundaries, and how science can shape what's possible, Abadi said. NASA represents the intersection of discovery, teamwork, and purpose, and that drew me in early. My family and friends have continually supported my passion for space, which evolved into a career at NASA. Abadi's path to working on Artemis II began years ago when she was a NASA cooperative student or intern, alternating between college semesters studying aerospace engineering at the University of Buffalo and working at the NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. After graduation, she began working as a NASA flight controller in mission control, then transitioning to NASA's Human Research Program, where she is now. In her position as an aerospace engineer, Abadi is responsible for leading NASA's strategy, coordination, and integration for Artemis II and Mars mission planning, and she added she is fortunate to work alongside teams who contribute directly to protecting astronaut health and enabling human exploration. Working on Artemis has been an extraordinary endeavor that brings together people and expertise from across NASA and our partners, Abadi said. It spans everything from science and engineering to mission operations, payload integration, safety, and public engagement. Every element of the mission comes from countless hours of collaboration amongst teams all over the world. Being a small part of this effort means working within a massive network of passionate individuals who are focused on one shared goal, returning humans to the moon and preparing for the next era of space exploration to Mars. While Wednesday saw the official launch of Artemis II on their mission, Abadi said the launch window was from April 1st to April 6th, and it was also live streamed on NASA's YouTube channel. If there had been bad weather or an unexpected technical issue, the next launch attempt would have begun on April 30th. But Wednesday's launch attempt saw no issues, and Artemis II officially launched from the Kennedy Space Center. The mission is expected to last 10 days. Launch preparation is a carefully choreographed effort that involves hundreds of people and many layers of planning, Abadi said. Teams refine requirements, verify systems, integrate payloads, confirm readiness across every discipline, and align all operational elements that support the mission. Every detail, technical, logistical, and public-facing, must come together at exactly the right moment. Abadi and her family received a special invitation to the launch as official NASA guests. They did have to pay for travel, but Abadi said they were given a special viewing area, and receiving the invite meant a lot. It's incredible, meaningful, Abadi said. Being invited to witness the launch in person is both an honor and a reminder of what a privilege it is to contribute to work that has such a profound impact. It's also emotional, seeing the culmination of years of effort, knowing the dedication and teams behind it, and being able to share that moment with family is something I'll always remember. For anyone out there looking to follow in her footsteps, Abadi said following their dreams and being willing to step outside of their comfort zone, are some of the most important things people can do. You can do anything you put your mind to, Abedi said. Follow your dreams. This was the sage advice from my wonderful parents that has carried me through my life. Stay curious, treat people with kindness and respect, show gratitude, and keep learning. Some of the most exciting opportunities come from stepping outside your comfort zone. Be patient with the process, embrace teamwork, and don't be afraid to take bold steps. Every path is unique. What matters most is passion, persistence, integrity, and a willingness to grow. Abedi also encouraged everyone to get involved and to follow their interests, which she said leads people to their passions, specifically for those interested in learning more about NASA. There are multiple ways to get involved there, whether it is someone who enjoys looking at the stars, a teacher looking for educational material, or a student looking to get involved. NASA has a resource page on their website, www.nasa.gov/learning-resources. Overall, Abedi said missions like Artemis II are only possible through teamwork and a community. We can do the near impossible when we work together, Abedi said. Small steps count and turn into big leaps that push the boundaries of discovery. So many hands and minds shape a mission like Artemis. Behind every launch are thousands of decisions, conversations, and technical achievements that the public never sees. It truly takes an entire community to make exploration possible. Artemis isn't just a mission, it's a symbol of what we can accomplish when we work together. Keep pushing forward and believe in the value of exploration. I hope it inspires the next generation of space explorers. Crosby's reconstruction underway. In Fredonia. A Main Street gas station in downtown Fredonia is closed for months, with a complete reconstruction underway. The Crosby's gas station, which also had a mini-mart, was fenced off this week as workers gutted the current building. They are getting it ready for demolition. Crosby's is set to rebuild the store and pumps at its 44 East Main Street location. Charles LaBarbera, Fredonia's top building officer, said in February that Crosby's will build a larger store. It's supposed to be a little further back from Main Street than the current one. Crosby's is putting in new gas equipment too, LaBarbera said. That's a pretty big project, so they'll be shut down all summer long, he said. The newly renovated store should reopen sometimes in the fall. The project will cost about $1.25 million, LaBarbera said. The owners of the Crosbys purchased 2 parcels adjacent to its Main Street site to enable construction and expansion. A check of Chautauqua County Online Records suggests it appears Hawley Development Corporation purchased 8 and 10 White Street in 2019 and combined the parcels with its Main Street property. 8 White Street was the location of a church torn down years ago that used to almost touch the Crosby's building. Fredonia girl and dog to compete in international disc finals. What a discovery. Article by M.J. Stafford. A Fredonia girl and her dog are on the rise in the world of dog disc competitions. Charlotte Thomas, 12, and her 2-year-old dog Luz are set to compete in the Updog International Finals April 7th to 12th in Clemens, North Carolina. Charlotte's interest in disc started when she came with me to a few disc events. I play as well, and a few friends let her play with their dog, said her mom, Jasmine Griffin. Once she showed a genuine interest, we started the search for a dog of her own to play with. We got Luz as a puppy, and Charlotte has trained her to play disc herself. Luz is a female Belgian Malonus Australian Kelpie mix. Griffin explained the word of dog disc. the World of Dog disc, where dogs fetch frisbees thrown to them by their masters. Competitive disc dog frisbee started in the early 70s and has transformed over the decades. There are several different disc dog venues to compete in, and all have different sets of rules and games, she said. Up Dog is a series of timed disc games that challenge a dog and handler's ability to communicate on the field and throw efficiently to different zones to earn points. There are also agility crossover games, Griffin continued. Charlotte and Luz have worked hard during the 25 Updog season to qualify for the Updog International Finals by earning a specific amount of points and achievements in 7 different games. Charlotte also competes in a toss and fetch league, which is 60 or 90-second rounds, where throws are scored based on the zone a catch is made. The further the catch, the higher the points. Charlotte consistently ranked in the top 2 as a youth handler last season. The competitions have brought Charlotte and Luz to places such as Batavia, Harrisburg, PA, Canfield, Ohio, and Columbus, Ohio. They also compete as part of a local club. This will be Charlotte's first time attending the Updog International Finals, but she is lucky enough to go as a youth ambassador for a custom disc dyeing brand, Dip and Dye, Griffin said. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Dunkirk Observer on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Demo begins at apartment project site. Article by M.J. Stafford. A key milestone has happened in the homesteads at Dunkirk Landing apartment project, with workers starting demolition of an old building on one of the sites. Now you can see something physically happening. We've been talking about it for years, said Vince DeJoy, Dunkirk's Planning and Development Director. The $35 million project will add 78 apartments to 2 sites, one at 208-14 Washington Avenue, and the other on 4th Street near the Save-A-Lot Plaza. The current demolition is of the Flickinger building and another old structure on the site of the planned Washington Avenue apartment building. They started it and approached it from the Park Avenue side of the building, DeJoy said. The intent was to keep debris away from Washington Avenue, he said. The roof had caved in. It was a dangerous situation. Now, demolition is coming in the nick of time, DeJoy said of the Flickinger building. After that is torn down, workers will have to do environmental remediation before construction of the apartments can begin. He said, there are enough contaminants on the site that project developer Regan Development successfully applied for credits from a brownfield program. DeJoy continued that demolition permits are approved for vacant stores on the west side of the Save-A-Lot Plaza lot, near the site's planned apartments. That demolition should commence very soon, he said. DeJoy said Thursday that startup on construction on both sites should begin by May 1st, as per a conversation he had that day with a Regan Development official. Empire Building Diagnostics is handling the demolition work on both of the project sites. DeJoy added that Regan Development recently completed acquisition of the section of the plaza property where the apartment building is going. The building is set to get erected in a parking lot, currently all but unused, near the site of the storefronts that will be demolished. According to a press release from the city, 16 of the apartments will be set aside for permanent supportive housing, affordable at or below 30% average medium income, AMI. They are intended for military veterans. Nonprofit organization Soldier On is involved in this part of the project. The rest of the apartments will be for tenants making between 30% and 70% AMI, along with a unit for the superintendent of homesteads at Dunkirk Landing. The project is part of Dunkirk's state-funded downtown revitalization initiative. DeJoy said it received $500,000 as an initial award and an additional $500,000 in a subsequent reallocation. DeJoy said Regan Development intends to close on its construction financing this week. Regan took a risk by starting before everything was 100% in place, DeJoy said. He claimed that everyone, including leaders, is confident the funding infrastructure will be in place. Westfield's Renault announces $3 million expansion. Renault Inc. is expanding its Chautauqua County operations, modernizing its Westfield facility at 100 Bourne Street. A local fixture since the early 1900s, the Renault Westfield plant will undergo a $2.97 million transformation to include a dedicated advanced manufacturing cell, optimizing the production of high-demand industrial couplings. Supported by up to $140,000 in performance-based Excelsior Jobs Program tax credits, this investment is expected to create 9 new skilled jobs. Renault's expansion in Chautauqua County is a prime example of how we are modernizing New York's historic manufacturing hubs to meet the needs of the 21st century global economy, said Hope Knight, Empire State Development President, CEO, and Commissioner. By investing in advanced manufacturing capabilities for critical components like generator couplings, we are not only preserving a local fixture in Westfield, but also creating high-skilled jobs that will drive Western New York's economic future. Renault designs and manufactures custom gear spindles, couplings, and specialized gearing. Its products are used in industries ranging from cement and chocolate manufacturing to subway trains and power stations. The Village of Westfield is pleased to acknowledge Renault Inc.'s continued commitment to our community and region, said Dennis Lutz, Westfield mayor. This expansion complements the many positive initiatives currently underway in Westfield, and we feel the impact of such financial growth. Building on the success of New York Forward, New York Swims, and other regional collaborations, Westfield remains grateful for this progress and is well positioned for future opportunities. We thank Renault Inc. for their reinvestment in our community, and we also thank Governor Hochul, Empire State Development, County Executive Wendell, and all those involved in their continued faith in our village. The Westfield plant is part of a worldwide operation spanning 16 countries. Specifically, the Westfield facility produces a unique coupling used in electrical generators for large-scale data centers. These components eliminate vibrations to ensure the smooth transfer of electricity. Currently, the plant produces 15 of the units per week at a maximum capacity. By integrating a new advanced manufacturing cell featuring Akuma machining centers, Renault will more than double its output to 40 couplings per week to meet surging demands from large natural gas generator manufacturers. For over a century, Renault Westfield has been a cornerstone of industrial manufacturing in Western New York, and this expansion ensures we remain at the forefront of engineering excellence, said Shane Marchison, Group Manager of Renault Westfield. By integrating this new advanced manufacturing cell, we are efficiently scaling our output on the specialized couplings essential for today's high-demand data infrastructure. We are deeply grateful to Empire State Development for their partnership, which helps us build on our legacy of innovation and continue investing in our local community. The project is expected to be completed by the end of 2026. Renault's investment in Westfield is a tremendous win for our community, said County Executive P.J. Wendell. This expansion not only preserves a proud local manufacturing legacy that spans more than a century, but also adds highly skilled union jobs and modern manufacturing technology to Chautauqua County. County government and the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency were pleased to help coordinate incentives to support this major business expansion and job port growth. We're proud to support business like Renault that are driving innovation, strengthening our workforce, and contributing to the economic growth of Western New York. County honors those with development disabilities. At the Chautauqua County Legislature meeting, County Executive P.J. Wendell officially recognized March as both Choose to Include Month and Development Disabilities Awareness Month. The proclamation celebrates the contributions of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and encourages the community to foster inclusive opportunities for all. First established nationally in 1987 by President Ronald Reagan, Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month encourages Americans to provide support, encouragement, and opportunities for individuals with developmental disabilities to lead full and productive lives. Equitable experiences and full inclusion are a matter of social justice, the proclamation states. Creating inclusive environments is the responsibility of everyone. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from current issues of the Dunkirk Observer. We read from the Dunkirk Observer every Saturday at noon. Your reader has been Bruce. Thank you for listening. And as always, make it a great day.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of our Northtown Bee papers, which includes Amherst, Clarence, Cheektowaga, Depew, and Lancaster. At 2 o'clock, we have our Southtown papers, which is the Orchard Park Bee, East Aurora Bee, West Seneca Bee, and Hamburg Sun. Following that, at 3 o'clock is the Ampole Eagle. Stay with us. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book,